Bruh, here we go again. Caitlyn is out minding her business. She out working on her golf swing at Michael Jordan's private golf course, doing her thing, not bothering nobody. Caitlyn Clark is not bothering nobody. And here we have another hating WNBA player being a flat out liar and a hater, and we gotta call them out and hold their feet to the fire. This is nasty, nasty work. Nasty work, bro. I'm telling you, they can't help themselves. These girls honestly can't help themselves. I don't even know how to pronounce.
So, check this out. Louise G., who plays for the Dallas Wings and is teammates with Paige Bueckers, just dropped this wild claim. She said Caitlyn Clark is a big part of the women's basketball revolution, but definitely not the only one. And get this. She even said Paige Bueckers has a killer instinct, claiming she could confirm it 100% from experience. It felt like a total dig at Caitlyn Clark, who, by the way, was just out there minding her business, hitting golf balls at Michael Jordan's private course. Fans were furious because it really seemed like a calculated shot to downplay Clark's generational talent and spread some misinformation. This wasn't just some random opinion. It was a bold, public statement trying to chip away at Clark's massive influence. And believe me, the WNBA world took notice. This wasn't going to slide.
So, Louisa G., that plays for the Dallas Wings, Paige Bueckers' teammate, felt the need to go on Instagram and take shots at Caitlyn Clark to try to uplift Paige Bueckers. You can uplift Paige Bueckers without talking about Caitlyn Clark. You could do that. She wants to go play Captain Saver for Paige Bueckers based on fans' opinion, and she wants to go take shots at Caitlyn Clark on Instagram. Then she goes on a podcast and also
But here's the thing. This whole controversy, it didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It actually came from a specific fan debate that's been bubbling for a while. A lot of Caitlyn Clark's fans really love her killer instinct, right? They often point to that competitive fire as a huge reason why they prefer her over other super talented players, even someone like Paige Bueckers. They see it as this unique, game-changing quality that truly sets Clark apart and drives her impact. So what happened? Louise basically stepped in to defend Bueckers, pushing back on that whole idea. She argued that Bueckers has that exact same killer instinct, trying to take away Clark's perceived advantage. And boom, that seemingly small point just blew up into a much bigger, nastier confrontation, really exposing some deep tensions that have been brewing in the league.
the show's host, Enoch Wolf, asked Guzelder Louisa, we call her Louisa, to choose between her teammate and the Indiana Fever star guard. The Wings center delved into her thoughts before naming Paige Bueckers as the winner of the matchup. We know that's a bold-faced lie. We know good and well that is a damn lie. Is nobody is taking no damn Paige Bueckers over Caitlyn Clark. And y'all make us have to say things like, yo, Paige Bueckers, yo, she can't even sell out. She got the third lowest attendance in the league. We like Paige, but when y'all do this.
Now, where did this all start? Well, Louise G. first made these public comments during an appearance on the Journey podcast one Saturday. The hosts, Enoch Wolf and Guzel, put her right on the spot. They asked her to pick between her own teammate, Paige Bueckers, and you guessed it, Caitlyn Clark. Louise G. didn't even hesitate. She thought about it for a second, then pretty decisively named Paige Bueckers as the winner in that hypothetical matchup. You might think, oh, that's innocent enough, but choosing Bueckers on a public platform, especially when everyone knows Clark's unique status, that immediately raised some eyebrows. It set the stage for a lot of questioning and doubt. The podcast was just the beginning. It was a warm-up for even bolder statements she'd make on social media, which really cranked up the whole conflict.
To say things like, yo, Paige, yo, she can't even sell out. She got the third lowest attendance in the league. We like Paige, but when y'all do this, when y'all do that, we have to do this. We have to do this. None of us was talking about Paige. We wasn't thinking about Paige. She'd have to go do Unrivaled. Nobody's bothering her. Okay, the fans had a lot to say about Louisa's opinion. They swarmed the post comment section with their take on Wing Star's opinions and on Bueckers Clark matchup. One fan gave Fever Garden upper hand in the matchup. It says Caitlin Clark is revolutionizing women's basketball right.
The idea that anyone...
So when Louise G chose Paige Bueckers over Caitlin Clark, a lot of people immediately called it a bold-faced lie, and it sparked a ton of disbelief. The conversation quickly shifted to an inconvenient truth. You know, Paige Bueckers' team currently has the third lowest attendance in the entire league. That's a huge contrast to Caitlin Clark, who literally sells out arenas everywhere she plays. This massive difference in how many fans show up and how much drawing power they have really shot down any idea that Bueckers could be seen as superior, or even equal, to Clark in terms of her overall impact and popularity. Ignoring those clear facts just made everyone more frustrated. Clark's supporters felt like they had to bring up these uncomfortable realities, not to be mean, but to fight against what they saw as a total fabrication. It really made Louise G's comments seem disingenuous.
Now, this is where the disrespect comes in. Now pay attention to this. This is where the disrespect starts. It's too much, and we got to call these people out. We have to. She goes and says this. This is what Louisa had to say on Instagram. It says, Caitlin Clark is definitely an important part of the revolution in women's basketball. Definitely not the only one, though. Paige Bueckers has a killer instinct. I can confirm 100% from live experience. So so here we go again. It's not only her, it's me too.
What's crazy is Louise G didn't just stop at the podcast. Oh no. She then went right to Instagram and doubled down on her initial comments with a pretty shocking post. It just amplified the disrespect, really. She directly wrote, and I'm quoting here, Caitlin Clark is definitely an important part of the revolution in women's basketball. Definitely not the only one, though. And then she added, Paige Bueckers has a killer instinct. I can confirm 100% from live experience. Listen, this wasn't some casual little comment on social media. This was a direct, public challenge to Clark's status as the WNBA's biggest game changer. It totally went against the widely accepted idea that Clark has this unique, revolutionary influence. The whole post, which was probably supposed to boost her teammate, just came off as a really petty, undermining attack. It sparked a furious backlash and honestly proved that her attempts to diminish Clark were totally premeditated. Naturally, the controversy just blew up even more.
Paige Bueckers has a killer instinct. I can confirm 100% from live experience. So so here we go again. It's not only her, it's me too. Get the out of here. Get out of here, Louisa. Nobody's thinking about you, bro. Why are you talking about Caitlin Clark? Who are you? Who are you? Bro, stop playing games. We talking about she did her part. No, she is the only reason. She's the only reason these girls is demanding all this money in the new CBA. She's the only reason these ratings jumped up. The ratings fell 55% when she got hurt. What are you talking about? Paige Bueckers ain't...
That specific phrasing, definitely not the only one though, really hit a raw nerve with people. It felt like a pretty clear attempt to water down Caitlin Clark's incredible and revolutionary impact. I mean, commentators are arguing that Clark is actually the only one responsible for this huge surge in WNBA interest. We're talking about new collective bargaining agreement discussions and this sudden demand for bigger player salaries. Her showing up basically changed the entire women's basketball scene all by herself. She's brought in millions of new viewers and an insane amount of attention that just wasn't there before her college stardom went pro. So to say she's just an important part among others, that completely ignores the massive shift she engineered all on her own. It just looked like a calculated move to strip Clark of the credit she's earned, diminishing her unique legacy for what seemed like really petty and baseless reasons. And that definitely fueled the outrage.
Oh, do this because you shouldn't even be talking about no Caitlin Clark. You shouldn't be talking about Caitlin Clark. Now let's look at Louisa G. You was drafted in 2020, second round pick by the Dallas Wings. Last year, you averaged 7 points and 5 rebounds. You don't get to talk about Caitlin Clark. How about that? We're going to start setting parameters, rules, and guidelines around here. We're going to start setting parameters, rules, and guidelines. Louisa G, I'm sorry. Your stats are not good enough for you to be trying to downplay who the woman that's about to get you more money in the league. What are you talking about?
And get this, the evidence for Caitlin Clark's singular impact isn't just talk. It's backed by solid, undeniable data that totally exposes how empty Louise G's claims actually are. Look, when Clark was out with an injury during her college career, WNBA ratings absolutely tanked by a shocking that massive drop wasn't just some random coincidence. It was a clear, hard-hitting proof of her unique ability to draw eyes and how much the league's viewership really depended on her being on the court. Honestly, no other player ever has shown that kind of profound, measurable influence on TV numbers. This direct link totally blows up the idea that she's just an important part of the revolution. It factually proves she is the only reason for this unprecedented explosion in attention and financial opportunity. So, it really just shows Louise G's statement was demonstrably false and super disrespectful.
Your mind. Caitlin Clark is definitely an important part of the revolution in women's basketball. Definitely not the only one, though. These women done bumped their head. I'm telling you, they can't help but to hate. You know who women's biggest haters are? Other women. That's really who women's biggest haters are. And it shows every single day in the WNBA, the gift that keeps on giving. Every day it shows. This is a typical, oh, it's not only her, it's us too. It's me too.
So, the immediate question after all of Louise G's statements is pretty simple, right? It's like, who are you and why are you even talking about Caitlin Clark? It was truly baffling to fans and analysts. This sheer audacity of a player with a pretty obscure career trying to bring down the WNBA's biggest star. Caitlin Clark, meanwhile, isn't bothering anyone. She's not getting into online arguments. She's not taking cheap shots at other players. Her whole focus is on her game, her growing ventures, and genuinely lifting up women's basketball with her amazing talent and undeniable appeal. This unprovoked attack from a lesser-known player, who actually benefits directly from all the new exposure Clark brings to the league, raises serious questions about jealousy and just plain misplaced priorities. It points to this underlying animosity that seems to pop up in certain corners of the WNBA, where some just can't seem to celebrate a pure, undeniable superstar without trying to dilute their impact. And what really fueled the outrage? The cold, hard truth of Louise G's own WNBA stats. Her career reveals a pretty average, if not underwhelming, professional journey. She was drafted in 2020 by the Dallas Wings in the second round, and honestly, her numbers just don't give her the authority to critique Caitlin Clark. Last season, she put up a modest 7 points and 5 rebounds a game. Those are respectable for a role player, sure, but they definitely don't give her the standing to openly challenge or diminish what a generational talent like Clark brings. That huge gap between her own on-court performance and her public declarations really screamed hypocrisy, making her statements sound even more hollow and, let's be real, self-serving. Because of all this perceived disrespect, people started calling for rules and guidelines in the WNBA about who actually earns the right to speak on Caitlin Clark. The sentiment is clear: if your own career stats and impact on the league aren't even close to hers, then you shouldn't be publicly trying to downplay her revolutionary contributions. This isn't about shutting down criticism. It's about drawing a line at blatant fabrication and unprovoked jabs from people who, let's face it, probably owe some of their increased visibility and future earnings to Clark's presence. The argument is that players should focus on their own game and careers, instead of what looks like petty, jealous attacks against the very person elevating the entire sport. This demand for professional behavior really highlights the deep frustration over constant attempts to diminish Clark's undeniable legacy. The main accusation against Louise G wasn't just that she was wrong, but that she showed a profound lack of respect and just plain audacity. To suggest Clark is merely an important part while Louise G herself is an average WNBA player, drafted 5 years ago, and maybe even lucky to still be playing, struck many as incredibly tone-deaf and disrespectful. This isn't just a difference of opinion. It's an attempt to belittle the woman who is single-handedly boosting the league's profile, leading to higher salaries and more opportunities for everyone, including Louise G herself. The narrative shifted to question how anyone could bite the hand that feeds them, let alone disparage someone so vital to their own professional well-being. This perceived ingratitude really fueled the anger, painting Louise's comments not as constructive criticism, but as a deeply personal and baseless attack. This whole episode quickly spiraled into a familiar storyline, the belief that women's biggest haters are often other women. It's a sentiment that's actually been brought up repeatedly within the WNBA itself. Commentators argue this isn't an isolated incident, but a recurring pattern of established female players struggling to truly embrace and celebrate a new, transcendent superstar, especially when that star brings unprecedented attention. There's this palpable sense of jealousy and a desire to collectively grab credit for a revolution that, let's be honest, is largely spearheaded by one individual. This gift that keeps on giving mentality, as some describe it, suggests an ingrained resistance among some athletes to acknowledge exceptionalism without trying to dilute it or spread credit where it isn't due. This internal conflict, it's argued, ultimately hurts the league by creating unnecessary division and controversy. That it's not only her, it's us too mentality, so often seen in the WNBA, was totally on display with Louise G's comment. This collective credit-grabbing approach tries to diminish Caitlin Clark's singular impact by saying the revolution is a group effort, thereby devaluing her unique contributions, but the actual reality just doesn't back that up. None of the other players are consistently selling out home and away games like Clark is, and their games aren't being moved to bigger NBA arenas to handle overwhelming demand. The huge appeal and record-breaking viewership spikes are undeniably linked to Clark's presence, not some collective effort from the entire league. This distinction is critical and really serves to debunk that we all contribute equally narrative, highlighting the attempt to dilute Clark's solo impact with a more palatable but ultimately false, collective triumph. Plus, the stark difference in arena sales served as yet another undeniable counterpoint to Louise G's attempts to big up Paige Bueckers and diminish Caitlin Clark. While Clark consistently sells out every arena, home and away, drawing huge crowds and viewership wherever she plays, other teams, including the one Bueckers plays for, are still struggling with attendance. The Dallas Wings, even with Bueckers' teammate, don't consistently fill their tiny-ass arena, as one critic put it. This tangible difference in drawing power really highlights the fundamental disconnect between Louise G's claims and what's actually happening in the W. The ability to single-handedly fill venues and generate massive revenue is a unique sign of Clark's appeal, something no other player currently matches. So any claim to the contrary is easily disproven by simply looking at ticket sales and attendance figure. And through this entire manufactured controversy, what was Caitlin Clark doing? She stayed conspicuously silent and totally focused, refusing to get dragged into the petty drama. While Louise was busy taking unwarranted shots on social media and podcasts, Clark was reportedly just minding her own business, literally practicing her golf swing at Michael Jordan's private course. She wasn't stirring up rivalries, and she definitely wasn't trying to diminish other players' career. Her actions consistently show a commitment to her craft, her endorsements, and her bigger mission to elevate women's basketball, not to engage in personal attacks. This quiet professionalism stands in sharp contrast to the unprovoked, aggressive behavior from Louise, underscoring Clark's mature approach to her burgeoning superstardom, and further highlighting the one-sided nature of the animosity she faces, making her an easy target. Caitlin Clark's influence, by the way, goes way beyond the basketball court. She's showing this broad, impactful presence that further discredits any attempts to minimize her. She's not just playing basketball, she's actively recruiting for Butler, participating in high-profile ventures like Unrivaled and Project B, and constantly building her brand. She is a cultural phenomenon, expanding the reach and appeal of women's sports into new territories, attracting diverse audiences, and creating unprecedented opportunity. These significant off-court endeavors, alongside her unparalleled on-court performance, really show a multifaceted impact that goes beyond just simple game statistics. It solidifies her status as a true trailblazer, whose reach is undeniable. The most infuriating part of Louise's behavior, beyond those initial false claims, was her deliberate decision to double down on her disrespect. Not content with making those inflammatory remarks on Instagram, she then went back and reiterated and amplified them during her podcast appearance, essentially locking in her position and leaving no room for misinterpretation. This wasn't just a brief moment of bad judgment. This was a sustained, calculated effort to publicly undermine Caitlin Clark's impact, repeatedly pushing that false narrative. This repeated offense signals a deeper, maybe even more ingrained animosity, suggesting a deliberate attempt to create controversy and grab attention at Clark's expense. Such persistence in spreading misinformation and disrespect further solidified the perception of her actions as malicious and unprovoked, demanding a strong rebuke from the league and its fans. And here's the regrettable consequence of Louise's unprovoked attacks. They actually force fans who might otherwise appreciate other players into this defensive stance, inadvertently highlighting the perceived shortcomings of stars like Paige Bueckers. When a player makes such outlandish claims about Clark, it makes her defenders point out facts, like Bueckers' team having the third lowest attendance in the league, details nobody was even talking about before this whole mess. This cycle of forced comparisons just creates an environment of unnecessary rivalry and negativity, damaging the WNBA's collective image. Instead of celebrating all the diverse talents in the league, these inflammatory remarks pit players against each other, fostering resentment and pulling attention away from the positive growth Clark has started. It creates this unwelcome, hostile narrative that only serves to divide fans and players alike. So the resounding sentiment from fans and commentators is clear: enough is enough. This has to stop. The constant unprovoked attacks and attempts to downplay Caitlin Clark's monumental impact aren't just tiresome, they're actively harmful to the WNBA's growth and reputation. This kind of nasty work distracts from the incredible progress the league is making, largely thanks to Clark's magnetic presence, and instead focuses on petty rivalries and baseless negativity. There's a collective demand for players to rise above jealousy and instead embrace the unprecedented opportunities Clark is creating for everyone. This call to end the disrespect isn't about silencing criticism, but about demanding professional conduct and acknowledging the undeniable truth of Clark's singular role in revolutionizing women's basketball, allowing the focus to return to the game itself, unburdened by unwarranted drama. Ultimately, Caitlin Clark stands as an unshakable force, single-handedly redefining women's basketball and shattering every ceiling previously thought impossible. Her impact isn't just a part of a revolution, she is the revolution, a singular phenomenon driving unprecedented viewership, revenue and opportunity for the entire WNBA. Despite the petty, misguided attempts by players like Louise to undermine her, Clark keeps elevating the game, inspiring millions and proving her value through undeniable metrics and global appeal. These constant unprovoked attacks only highlight the insecurity and jealousy some struggle with, ultimately backfiring and solidifying Clark's position as the undisputed face of the league. Her legacy is being written in sold-out arenas and record-breaking ratings, proving that truth, unlike lies, will always prevail.